The sharing of best practices is a great way to ensure that you're getting the most use out of your own assessment data, and to share his experience with the migration towards ACT Aspire. With us today is the Archdiocese of Chicago's Dr. Jorge Pena. Dr. Pena is the Director of School Improvement and Catholic School Accreditation. Dr. Pena will be sharing his experience and how he is working with Chicago schools to ensure that they're using the ACT Aspire data to drive instructional improvement with the goal of getting more of their students in the Archdiocese of Chicago to college and career. So with that, Dr. Pena.
Welcome. As Jim said, I'll be sharing our migration story. Should you have questions at any time during your presentation, please take an inquiry stance and feel free to ask any question that you may have. A little bit about the Archdiocese of Chicago. We are the largest Catholic school system in the United States. We consist of 191 elementary schools, over 59,000 students, 216 administrators, 3,500 teachers, 36 high schools. This is the NCEA, so we wanted to showcase our Catholicity in our system. Most of our students in our system are Catholic, but we do have a segment of our population that are non-Catholic. Our journey begins in the fall of 2014 when the Archdiocese launched new curricular benchmarks that are aligned to more rigorous standards. And our benchmarks are around English language arts and mathematics, and we specifically aligned them to the Common Core state standards and ACT college readiness standards. For over 10 years, our system was using a different assessment in our system. And as we were collecting that data, we found that once we launched our new curricular benchmarks, that the data that we received from our summative assessment no longer informed our teachers about how well our students were performing against our standards or how well they were learning our standards. The assessment that we were using when it came to reading had 4 objectives: basic understanding, analyze text, evaluate extend meaning, and reading and writing strategies. However, our new curricular benchmarks in reading measures key idea and details, craft and structure, and integration of knowledge and ideas. So the data that we got from our summative assessment didn't inform our teachers about those 3 specific strands. In the Archdiocese of Chicago, this statement helps guide our work, that standards are meaningless until we define how we're going to assess those standards and student learning against those standards. And because of this, assessments are the starting point for instruction. So we had an assessment dilemma, and we created an inquiry question that we wanted to answer based on the assessments. And what assessment will communicate that students are learning our new curricular benchmarks? We evaluated a series of different assessments: Terranova Common Core, the Stanford Achievement Test, NWEA's Measures of Academic Progress, Iowa Test of Basic Skills, the PARCC assessment, and ACT Aspire. And the outcome of that evaluation was that there were 2 assessments that were aligned to our benchmarks: the PARCC assessment and ACT Aspire. In ACT Aspire, we found remedy in the fact that the assessment measures key idea and details, craft and structure, and integration of knowledge and ideas, which is the information that our teachers need in order for them to understand student learning. So we decided to test drive the ACT Aspire assessment, and we administer it exclusively to students in 8th grade in the fall of 2014, in November. We also were interested to learn from our students their experience with taking this assessment. Since they've been in our schools from 3rd grade on, they took this other assessment that we were using, and now we wanted to get their experience about this different assessment. The following is actual data from results from our students' performance. Yes, sir?
Did you administer all sections on one day, or did you spread out?
It's a great question. We actually administered in one day, but it was tough. It was really tough for our students. So this year, we are spreading it over a week, 1 assessment per day. Regarding the administration itself, it's a mixed. So we allowed schools to make that decision locally. Some schools that do have the infrastructure are testing all grades 3 through 8. But a few schools said, well, let's start with 3rd grade with computer-based testing, and we'll phase it in over time. So from that 3rd grade perspective, when they move on to 4th grade and 5th grade, they will always take this computer-based test. Other schools said, well, we'll do computer-based testing for the middle school grades and paper-based for the lower grades. And we leave those decisions for our schools to make. The makeup of our results are 5,299 students who took the assessment. And there are 3 reporting categories: ready, close, and in need of support. And the dark orange represents our students' performance. And we were anxious about the assessment. It was brand new. It's much more rigorous assessment. So I remember just waiting for the results to come in. And as soon as they came in, I logged in and started generating results. And I was so proud of our 8th graders who took an end-of-year summative test in the fall and performed above the benchmark, which is the solid green line. In reading, we also were above the benchmark. Writing was the only assessment where we were 3 points below the benchmark, but I felt okay with that for a couple of reasons. One, our prior assessment did not measure writing exclusively, so this is the first time students took a formal writing assessment. And second, because we administered it in the fall, and it's designed to be an end-of-year April test, had we given our students that time, I believe our students would meet or rise the benchmark. Math, we were right at the benchmark of a 425, but nevertheless, we are ready because we are meeting the benchmark. The math assessment on the ACT Aspire has created amazing conversations in our system. About 35% to 40% of the test instrument is open-ended mathematic communication, justification and explanation. And that came out in the student surveys when we asked them, what was your experience when you took the test? And kids were writing, I never had to write in math before and explain my thinking beyond explaining my solution process. So we've used that as an opportunity for improvement so that our teachers are now targeting mathematical communication, not for the assessment, but because we recognize that is a skill that's necessary for engineering fields, mathematics fields, and science fields. In science, we were also at the benchmark as well. So we felt very confident and comfortable adopting the ACT Aspire assessment based on our student results from the test and the survey that we collected. We also like that it is a longitudinal assessment where students, as they take the assessment over time, in one report will have multiple years of their progress. In 2 weeks, our students will be taking the ACT Aspire in grades 3 through 10, and that will be over 31,000 students. So are there any thoughts or other questions that you may have at this time before we continue? Do we have state testing in Illinois? Yes, we do, but we don't participate in the state assessment as a Catholic school system. Yes, sir?
How did you communicate the results to the parents?
How do we communicate results? So for our 8th graders, we printed the individual student report in color and gave it to our parents that way. However, this year, we realized with 31,000 students, we don't want our schools necessarily to print a 4-page report in color. That's a lot of printing, yes. So we're going to leverage our student information system and migrate those PDF files to the student portal. So parents, when they log in, they'll see the PDF there, and they could print it at home if they choose to. And for families that may have a technology issue, we'll be able to meet their needs by printing the report in for those circumstances.
Did you give any kind of discussion with the results that you gave, or was it just this?
Yes, we created a letter that we gave to our principals for them to adapt and modify. And we met with our principals to communicate what message to provide to our parents. Yes. Yes, sir.
What assessment did you say you migrated from? I don't think you did.
Correct. The Terranova.
And when you were looking, I mean, there were a lot of pretty popular assessments on there. Why did ACT Aspire stand out to you compared to a lot of those other ones?
It stood out because the other assessments, the skills that they measure did not inform our teachers about our benchmarks. And for us, that's what's most important, is students learning our benchmarks. And the other assessments just did not provide that information to our educators.
So it was that landing level. I mean, that really drilling down to the
Yes.
different indicators, A, B, C, Ds, see why they chose a certain distractor. It's that type of reporting back that you found the most.
Correct. Yep. As educators, we believe in the science of complexity, where our work is complex work, just like medicine. And we evaluated these diagnostics, because that's how we see them, as diagnostics, so that when we get information, our teachers have a thorough understanding that if our students are going to be successful in fractions, these are the skills that we've identified in our benchmarks. And we communicate to our teachers, if you prepare our students on these standards, then they will perform well on the assessment. Yep.
I'm in a high school. Are you doing anything? They say you teach in 9th and 10th graders.
Yes.
Who are going to take this.
Correct.
Are you doing anything to show growth or predictive score then with the ACT for 11th and 12th?
Yes. 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 Yep. The assessment, ACT Aspire, does give that predictor. And then we use the concordance table, because our high schools are used to the ACT scale and not the 3-digit ACT Aspire. But we said it's okay, there's this awesome concordance table that translates this 3-digit score into the ACT scale. And then that's our bridge to our high schools. Well, I'll be sticking around if folks want to have a one-on-one, but again, thank you for your time.